Good morning. I was thinking about something today. I'm not sure if it's when I was driving on my way to go walk the dogs this morning or while I was actually walking the dogs, or maybe it was a little bit of both. Uh, there is a huge debate, argument on obedience and whether or not we should be obedient to our Father, the Lord Jesus Christ. And to those of us who are truly born again, it's like head scratching because when you truly love someone, you naturally want to do things to please that other person, make that other person happy, that you think of others before you think of yourself. So I just wanted to give a small example. I have thousands of them. Thousands. Not that I can come up with all of them. I'm just saying if you think of my whole lifetime of 43 years, with all the mischief and everything that I've done throughout those years before I became born again, I'm sure that there are at least 1,000 examples. So I'm going to give you one, something to think about. And maybe even you have a similar example. So it's something that you can look to and think about. So when I was 18, back in 1996, I believe. Yes, 1996. The summer of 1996. I was 18. I had a couple of jobs, part-time jobs. One was working in a deli. I believe I was making, get this, I'm really dating myself. I was making $5.50 an hour, $5.50 an hour part-time. Okay, I had to pay for my own car insurance. I had to pay for my own books for school. I had to pay for my own gas, everything. So making $5.50 an hour, you can imagine how well I maintained the car that I used to drive. It was a 1985 Chevy Cavalier, manual drive, because my dad said, I'm going to give you a 5-speed, because if you can learn how to drive a 5-speed, you can drive anything. So it was important for him to get me that 5-speed. Now the car, I think because he got it through his work, my dad was a mechanic at the time, so he got a discount off of the car. He bought the car for less than $500 because it had a lot of miles on it. It was a good little car. It lasted for a long time. Anyhow, making $5.50 an hour, I never maintained my car. You could push on the nose of my car and it would bounce. At one point, my starter was going and it was wired underneath the steering wheel where I had a dime, a literal dime, 10 cents, put in this little thing where I had to flick it for my car to start. I'm not kidding. Or because my starter was going and sometimes that little dime trick wasn't working, I'd park on a hill where I would put it in second gear and pop the clutch. If you're familiar with a standard, you know what I'm talking about. It would kickstart the car. So I'd always have to find a hill to park on. My tires were bald. even in the middle of winter. And this was in Massachusetts, okay? I had no fear driving in that car with bald tires on the worst wintry icy days. It was so nutty. I just didn't have any fear cuz I was 18 years old. At that age, no disrespect, but teenagers don't have common sense. Teenagers really don't have um like able to rationalize consequences of their actions. That's why it's so important for parents to really give as much knowledge to their children, throughout that time, because even though they're teenagers, in a sense, they're still toddlers. Again, no disrespect. So, I used to have, at the time, I had a boyfriend that lived in Worcester. And I lived in a small town called Winchendon, Massachusetts. So I'd go back and forth, after work. I'd fly. Like the speed limit, oh, what was it? Was it 190, 290? I'm not good with routes sometimes. But anyways, the route 495, the route to Worcester, um, and Route 12, I had to travel Route 12 as well. Route 12 is only 55 miles per hour, okay? And Massachusetts roads are not maintained well at all. It wasn't back in the 90s, and it certainly isn't maintained very well now. Yeah, all that toll money is not really going to repair the roads. They do buy those cameras, so they charge you, to drive on those roads, but they don't want to maintain them very well. So I'd fly. I'm not kidding you. I would drive 80 miles per hour. I'm not saying that I was a smart kid, okay? I'd fly because my Chevy Cavalier was kind of low. It didn't it was a very low vehicle, low to the ground. And, again, it was a standard. So like in fifth gear, the RPMs weren't like going out of control, going 80. And I'd look down, 80 miles per hour, 75, 80 miles per hour. And I do that. I don't know how many times I went back and forth to Worcester. Let's just say I went back and forth 200 times. And that wouldn't be an exaggeration. Let's just say 200 times during that time period. Now, my car's not maintained well at all. Again, let me remind you, I was making $5.50 an hour. I had bald tires. I'm flying down the road on the highway that's, 55 miles per hour going 80. Not only endangering my life, but endangering others. Okay? Again, 18 years old. I'm not saying I was a smart kid. When I think about it now, when I was walking the dogs today, I imagined like being 18 years old and one of those tires blowing out while I'm going 80 down a highway that's only supposed to be 55 miles per hour. Now, I just imagined going completely out of control. Not only totaling the car and possibly killing myself, but also the possibility of totaling someone else's car and killing them as well. So I think about moments like that in my testimony, in my life testimony. of how many times the Lord Jesus Christ was watching over me and making sure not only nothing bad happened to me, but to those around me. So when the topic of obedience comes up, it's a no-brainer for me that the Lord Jesus Christ was protecting me and watching over me. And it's clear, it's so clear. And not that I'm trying to make up for my life's mistakes and shortcomings and what have you. It's not about making anything up by trying to do good deeds. I know you can't work for your salvation. Obedience has nothing to do with work. But I can see how the Lord Jesus Christ is protecting me by being obedient. That his commandments aren't about, he's trying to be overbearing and you can't enjoy life. That's why it's so interesting to me how people can warp their view of something and make something seem negative, even though it's not. It's all perspective. And that's the thing, is it is about perspective. That's all it is. You could take those commandments and give it to someone else who is not ready to be obedient, who still wants to be disobedient. They can look at that as a very horrible, awful, how could you ask me to do those things, you know? Or you could take myself as an example, and the same list of commandments are so easy, come so easily for me because I understand what my Father has done for me. And looking at the same commandments, it doesn't seem hard for me, if that makes sense, because I know he's was looking out for me. Again, my whole life, I just gave you one small example. And then comparing that example to what he asks of me, it's so little. It's so little. Don't fornicate. Psh, no problem. You know, don't commit adultery. That's no problem either. You know, don't bear false witness. You know, I don't really, before I even became born again, I didn't like gossip and people talking bad behind others' back before I came to know Jesus Christ. It's all perspective. If you are able to look over your life and see what he's done for you and see what he's still doing for you, in a spiritual realm, there's so many things you don't see that he's protecting you from every single day. And all he asks is you follow his commandments so you don't fall into the darkness. He sees the darkness, you don't. He wants to keep you in the light because he wants you to go back home. He loves you. So, when the topic of obedience comes up, I find it's very crazy that someone else is going to argue about being obedient when all he wants you to do is listen to keep you out of trouble so you can go back home. Not because he's trying to be an overbearing parent and he doesn't want you to be happy. He's trying to keep you from hell. So I hope I planted a good seed. And please do think about your life and look back at all the foolish things you used to do, especially when you were a teenager. And think about how bad each moment could have been if the Lord Jesus Christ wasn't looking out for you. And then maybe when you look at his commandments, you can look at them like, how can it compare? How can I not follow and be obedient? So I love you. I hope you have a really great day, and God bless.